Hi everybody, I'm Tash.
And I'm Demo.
And we are so excited to bring you this week's episode of The Barry Chronicles.
Yeah. Today we're talking with Glenn McIntosh.
Glenn is an incredible psychologist and he has an amazing team of psychologists that specialise in helping people within the bariatric space. So welcome, Glenn.
Everyone, so we're here with Glenn, our amazing psychologist. Glenn, welcome to the Barry Chronicles.
Thank you, Damo. Thank you, Tash. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you guys.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Very excited. Thank you so much.
And I remembered to push record, so after our little mishap last week.
That just means this one's got to be bigger and better.
Yep.
Yes.
Agreed.
So psychology is, I think, such an important part of having weight loss surgery. 10 years ago, there weren't that many psychologists that specialised in it. I didn't even know that there were any that did specialise in it. I always thought weight loss surgery, you get cut open, you lose weight, and you have a good life. After about 3 weeks, I realised that the being cut open was just such a small part of what I was going through. So, how do you start with someone who's thinking about weight loss surgery?
Well, I think that's a really good question. And I think where I start was actually kind of with what you were talking about before, is, asking the person, what do you know of psychology and what do you think the psychologist is here to do? And how much of your journey, whether that's pre-surgery and figuring out which option is right for you, or post-surgery, making sure you minimize the risks and maximize the results, how much of that journey do you believe is in your mind? And I think with people who are on the bariatric journey, I get the whole variety.
Yeah.
I get people who say to me, Glenn, I think it's like the whole thing. And I get people that sort of think, oh, well, I sort of really don't know why I'm here. Are you here to just tell the surgeon whether I can get surgery or not? Or
yeah. It's like, are they just going to say, no, this person's crazy, don't give them surgery? Or,
Yes. Yeah, and I think
there are definitely those people that probably, and I know I was terrified that I would go to my psychologist appointment and I would get a great big red cross and it would be like, no, don't operate on her. I didn't, thankfully. But that is not what preoperative bariatric psychology is about, is it?
No, it's not at all. And I think that the worst case scenario is the one that you mentioned, Dash. It's that where people think, well, this psychologist is here to give me a green light or a big red cross and tell the surgeon whether I can or can't get surgery. They're kind of like the gatekeeper to surgery.
The little troll on the
little troll. And then if they are that little troll who I've got to cross on my road to, what I want to do, then am I going to be really honest to that troll? Am I going to be kind of crafty and tell them what I think they need to hear before they can let me cross? And so I think that's like the worst case scenario. A little bit better, but still not great at all. And this is what I've experienced, because you're right, Damo. I think 10 or 15 years ago, there weren't a lot of psychologists who specialised in this space. So that the surgeons were, the ones that actually believed in psychology, were finding just a general psychologist who might not have a huge interest in this space. And then the sessions were more of almost like a tick and flick. Let's kind of go through the motions. And to me, that might be a bit better than like a game where, to try and get through to get the surgery, but it's still, there's kind of like a uselessness about the process.
Yeah.
And so what I've been trying to do for the past, almost 20 years now, is help people understand that if I was to just summarize the main role of the psychologist, it's to help you.
Yeah.
The psychologist is there to help you in that decision of what is the, pre-surgery, what is the best surgical option for you, who is the best surgeon, how do you set up your support team, and then post-surgery to deal with the infinite amounts of challenges that you can find along the road.
So I hear that, and I believe that psychology is essential, is vitally important to the whole process, but certainly to the success long term. And I love even that you said about helping you set up your support system and the team around you. I don't think that the importance of that can be overstated. I wish that I had done more work around that prior to having surgery.
Yep.
So can you walk us through how you do that?
How we would set up the team?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, look, everyone's different,
Yeah.
but thank goodness there are these common themes.
Yes.
And for me, when we're looking at surgery, you obviously want to start with the surgeon.
Yes.
You want a good quality surgeon who specializes in doing that work. And if you can, you want a surgeon who actually has some of the team at least established. But for me, it's that you start with the surgeon and then it's your dietitian.
Yes.
I think that, often I'm recommending to clients when we see them pre-surgery, I'm saying, look, I think you should stick with your dietitian for at least the first year, maybe longer, and see them like monthly or so. And sometimes people say to me, Glenn, that's a lot more than I have to do. And I kind of think, well, do you want to get average results, or do you want to actually make the surgery everything that you hoped it could be? And seeing a dietitian is a key part of it. There are lots of little things, and I think it's a tricky one post-bariatric surgery, because the surgery is so effective at helping you lose weight that you can kind of ignore dietetic change to some degree. You can get away with sometimes some fairly less than optimal eating, and then it can actually sort of disempower you from creating that habit change that you'll need to like you say, Tash, get the long-term success.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree with you there. I think that obviously we don't want to go down a path where we ever demonize food in any way.
Totally.
But I have found for myself anyway that I needed a lot of educating around how to build a framework to be able to eat and eat well and love and enjoy my food, and do that in a way that was going to be empowering for the long term, and still enjoy, certain things that I probably used to have every day that now I don't have every day.
Yep.
But I needed to be able to find a way to adjust that as I was going. And
Yes.
It's definitely so important to have that feedback from the dietitian. So I think you're 100% bang on.
Absolutely. And a good dietitian who is a bit psychologically minded, who understands not only the nutritional recommendations, but also how important it is to have a healthy relationship with food. Because you're right, you don't want to get into some yucky kind of dieting or disordered eating territory. And I think a dietitian is the person to help you to find that balance. And like you say, Tash, I think it's a great word. You said something like it's ongoing. It's an ongoing thing. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge that our psychologists have pre-surgery is helping people understand that it is an ongoing journey. And that's the best way to see it. It's like you said, Damo, it's not that okay, I'm going to get the surgery, then that's the silver bullet, everything is fixed. And that's probably an approach that will kind of set you up for sabotage and the struggle in the longer term.
Totally agree with you.
Yeah,
So-
I think when I had one of my regains, I'd sort of got into this habit of, I was eating whatever I wanted, but I actually didn't care how much of it I ate. So I was eating a bit more than what I knew I should. But there was one day where I realised that I'd had 3 different types of takeaway that day. And, this is post-surgery. And I realised then I need to, sort of step back a bit and amend those habits, because
Yes.
I realised I was falling back into some old patterns that was going to lead me down a path that I didn't want to end up at the end of.
Yeah. And I think that then, if you've got, the surgeon, that part's done, you've got a good relationship with the dietitian, you're working through the process with them, then probably for me, the next part becomes the psychologist.
Yes.
And for me, the psychologist can absolutely help you with mental health concerns, of course, depression, anxiety,
Yes.
but can also help you with, for me, I think, when do we really enter the power of psychology? It's when there is a gap between our intentions, what we want to do, and our actions. So whenever we've got that gap between what we want to do and what we're actually doing, there's something going on psychologically. And I think, Damo, if we take your example, having a bit of a weight regain, for you, there was probably some really clear actions that you knew that you could take to maybe get a bit of structure around your eating, to maybe reduce certain foods like takeaway a little bit. So you intellectually know the answer for you. You know the way to go, but if you're struggling with actually putting that into place, and I think, if you have a weight regain, isn't that a beautiful example? You might know the actions, but just knowing the actions is not the whole picture. You might have to feel, you might have to deal with feelings like feeling guilty or shameful. You might have to deal with barriers to going back and seeing your dietitian or your surgeon. I'm going to feel judged. And then we get into areas of weight bias and weight stigma.
Yes.
You might struggle with a personal motivation. Goodness, I was doing so well, and then life has happened, as it does. I've had a natural setback, as we do. But there's something there that's really it's taken the wind out of my sails. So I've got to figure out how to regain that motivation. So all of those things, if you're struggling to do what you want to do, that's where the power of psychology can really help you.
Yeah, wow.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, so something like on a practical perspective, I'd sort of wonder, okay, well, what do I need to do so that I'm not going through drive-throughs all the time? And it's actually, Tash, I just saw a thing that she does, and she's got what we call a car pantry. And, there's all sorts of food in the glove box, and, and I think that's a great idea because, you can sort of just grab something out of there. It's something that is fitting into my macros that is my goal for a day. And it's okay if I eat from the car pantry.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And isn't it that, what a great idea? And it's sort of, to sort of answer that in the framework of Tasha's question, the other thing I think you need, and the thing that you guys provide, is community. And so, I know on your Facebook group, you have people asking questions like this very challenge, and people providing answers like the car pantry all the time. And so I think that, because typically the surgeons, they love doing surgery. And I've been to and presented at surgical conferences, and I stick around and watch what they're talking about. And they're so passionate about improving their their long-term outcomes in terms, improving their surgical skill, looking at the evidence around minimizing risks. But most of them, the best you get is that they're interested in the long term. They're never going to be as interested as a dietitian or a psychologist or a fellow community member or you. So you sort of need to get that sort of that extra support on going after the surgery from, I think it's the dietitian, the psychologist, it's the community. And then the last bit of the puzzle for me is if you would benefit from it, someone to help with your movement. And that could be a variety of people, a physiotherapist, an exercise physiologist, a massage therapist, a personal trainer, a whole variety. So for me, in helping someone set up that team, it's well, could this help you? And if it could, then who is the best person to help?
Yeah.
And I just want to say something that as I'm thinking about how I would support and how my team support people through surgery, and really this is actually through any sort of weight journey that someone might be on.
Yeah, that's right.
My big encouragement to people is to go all in with the support you get. I know that extra support takes more time. I know that extra support takes more money. But what I see in my experience, and what the research supports as well, is that people who sort of, if you mind my language, sort of half-ass the process can end up half-assing it for decades.
Yeah.
And it ends up taking more time and costing more money. But if you're feeling that, now motivation, of course, does go up and down. But if you're feeling that like, hey, now is the right time, if I'm working with someone and they're like, oh, Glenn, I don't know about, say, joining up that group exercise class, I think I could possibly do it by myself. I say, hey, you know what? This is a big, complex, multifactorial journey. It's a big hill to climb. And so if we can make that hill just a little less steep for you, I'm all for it. And I think in the long run, it saves you time and it saves you money. So my real encouragement with people when we're figuring out who's going to be part of their support network, and obviously you've got to be practical about it. You don't have all the time and all the money in the world, but is to go all in, because I think it's a better way to harness that motivation, that initial motivation, and get the best results in the long term.
I completely agree with you. I think that there is so much wisdom in jumping all in with everything that you have at the beginning, because if you have to start to try to undo or redo things later down the track, it can be such a disempowering feeling.
Yep. And I completely agree with that. And I remember talking to a surgeon, because there is a big debate, and we work with a lot of wonderful surgeons, and it is probably our favorite approach who have mandatory or strongly recommended pre-surgery appointments. And that's good. We think that's a good place to start. But it's not universally accepted, even by surgeons who do see the value in the psychology. And I remember talking to a new surgeon who we're going to begin working with maybe a couple of weeks ago. And he said, Glenn, I think that the best time for surgery would be, for psychology would be about a year after surgery, when all of the challenges start coming up. And I sort of said, look, I can agree with you on one hand, because I think often we experience when people come into the clinic is, when some particular quote unquote problem has come up and they're really realizing, hey, I need this support now. So they're really energized. And so I think that can be a really good time to see a psychologist. But what I said to him is, in a perfect world, my preference would be that the person would probably see us before surgery, help get set up, and then I would prefer to see them regularly throughout that first year to prevent some of those challenges from happening, would be my optimal. Yeah.
100%. Why go down that particular rabbit hole if you don't need to?
Absolutely.
It's like with our multivitamin, isn't it? We take it so that we prevent deficiencies and stuff. rather than waiting till we're deficient and then trying to play catch up. The psychology is the same. Let's prevent some of these, or at least have plans in place to address it so that we're not trying to play catch up.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And to scaffold the areas that we know that we are a bit weaker in and have those supports already in place, those psychology appointments already in place, so that we know that we can confidently walk through that first year. Because personally for me, I found the first year after my surgery, I found the first 6 weeks horrific in terms of mental health struggles, and just I didn't really comprehend the intense dependence that I had on food to soothe myself. So in those first 6 weeks, that really, really hit me. But then that first year, there was a lot of grief, a lot of rapid changes, and I was struggling and grappling with how do I cope with this. And it wasn't really until the end of the first year that I sought out sort of that psychological help for myself. And then things did start to really improve. I had some sessions prior, but I just sort of dropped the bundle after surgery. So I think that you are 100% right when you say, have those appointments scheduled in, because that first year is tough, or it can be, depending on your experience.
And look, I think there's often people do wonder, when do I, again, quote unquote, need to see a psychologist? And I think a big part of my mission has been not only to hopefully help people understand, and I'm talking about people in the public as well as other health professionals, including surgeons, to help them understand that psychologists can help so much with eating, physical activity, weight, body image, which is probably not a traditional area of psychology, but also to help people understand that psychology can be really powerful no matter what is going on for you. I think that traditionally we've seen psychology as, well, there is a quote unquote problem, or I have a quote unquote mental health condition, and that's all psychologists was for. Now, psychologists obviously definitely help with those things, but you can actually see a psychologist for at any time. So my favorite metaphor that I give, that's if you think about the like the journey of bariatric surgery, you can absolutely see a psychologist. You think of the psychologist as like a mechanic on the journey. You can stop in at the mechanic, or you can stop in, or if you can get towed there if you've broken down. That's a great place to see a psychologist. Like, I'm really stuck. I'm really struggling with that depression or anxiety, or a sense of loss around, not having my coping mechanism of food. I'm really struggling. Reach out and see a psychologist. So you can see the mechanic or the psychologist when you've broken down. That's the perfect time to see them. But you can also see them, and this is, I think, what we're all really talking about. You can also see them for a tune-up. You don't have to wait, to leave your car to get serviced every 5 years until it breaks down. You service it every year or so it runs better and it doesn't break down as much.
That's right.
And the third way that you can see a mechanic/psychologist is for performance enhancement.
Yes.
It's like, hey, you know what? There's nothing wrong here. I might, some people might be really happy just to get the average sort of research-based results from their bariatric journey. And some people might say, you know what, maybe I have a significant amount of weight, like more than the average, to lose. My journey's, a bigger one. Or maybe I want to do a better job than average with this. Maybe I want to really kind of kill this process. And so you can see a psychologist or a mechanic just to improve your performance.
Yeah, 100%. I've found for myself, and obviously I'm years post-op now, but I found for myself, even in business, in all facets and all areas of my life, that my weight was definitely something that hindered me and held me back. And I have seen my psychologist just for performance enhancement in terms of the way that I have relationships, the way that I interact, to help with my confidence, to help build my self-esteem, to give me keys and strategies around all of those things. I needed that help in those areas.
Yeah.
It's not specifically a bariatric issue. It's probably just a person issue, but it's really been very, very helpful. And I think that there's just so much value in really investing into yourself in that particular way. So.
And look, maybe I'm biased because I am a psychologist. I think everything relates to psychology. But I think, we've talked a bit about eating, we've talked a bit about movement, talked about weight, and these are some of the key areas that I think that people think about when they think about, how a psychologist can help. But also, obviously body image and self-esteem and confidence are huge areas. And I think it's such a complex and unique process that you go through when you're on the bariatric journey, because most people do end up going from a larger body, and we know that we live in a society that stigmatizes people with larger bodies and celebrates people with smaller bodies. And so a lot of people will start a bariatric journey with hopes of having a smaller body and improving their body image. And the research does say to us that in general, people's body images do improve following bariatric surgery. That's the research. But it also says to us that journey there's a lot of variability in that journey. So, some people's body image might actually go the other way. It can put people into restrictive dieting mindsets and they become hyper-focused on things they don't like. Some people, if you have experiences in your past, particularly in your childhood, that have created a negative body image, a dissatisfaction with your body, a preoccupation with your body, it might be that changing the physical shape and size of your body is only part of the picture. The other part of the picture is changing the way that you see yourself and actually dealing with, like you said, Tash, all those changing relationships and the different ways that people treat you when you're in a smaller body. It can be sort of something that you start off wanting, but it can be a huge thing to, I mean, actually not everyone does start off wanting that. Some people find it really uncomfortable to deal with, but it can be a huge transition for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we've both experienced that, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I was thinking as you were talking, was just around Christmas and I had to buy a suit, and the amount of emotions that came up trying to find one, because every shop I went into, they still didn't fit. Even the biggest sizes wouldn't fit, and I was really starting to get upset.
Even though
I've lost so much weight, I'm still a big person, and I'm always going to have broad shoulders, and I ended up going into one of what they call like a large man's shop.
Yes.
And initially I felt so much shame even walking in there, because I haven't sort of gone into a shop like that in 10 years. But I haven't bought a suit in 10 years either.
Yep.
But I really, it hit me harder than what I realised it would. I just thought, I'll go in there. And the guilt and the shame started, and I was standing there thinking, what are you doing? It's just clothing.
Yep.
But it's still, it just took me back to that place. And, it was a very emotional thing.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Damo. And I think, but it highlights the ongoing challenge that we have. I sort of said we live in a society that stigmatizes fatness and idealizes thinness. And so as people living in that society, we internalize that. So we can have a logical, rational part of you that goes, well, A, I'm just going into a store to buy a suit. It's no big deal. And B, I haven't been in one of these stores because I haven't bought a suit in a long time. So there's like that conscious, rational, logical part. Thank goodness that part's in there. But there's also this deep-seated emotional part that comes from living in this society that is not a very friendly society for people living in larger bodies.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of unpacking to be able to do around either realizing, or maybe if you've been on this journey for a while, Damo, just remembering that at any shape, any size, any weight, you're a person of worth, and you decide you're worth as much as the next person.
Yeah.
And that is why having psychology appointments was so important to me. Even though I am in a very small body now, I experience stigma at the other end, which has been extremely strange for me, because I used to experience it when I was in a large body, and now that I'm in a very small body, I experience it there as well. And that can be very crippling at times. So it's been very important to me to have that message reinforced about my worth.
Yep.
And you know what, sometimes, even though it does mean things when those that you love, tell you those things, but sometimes it's just really good to be reminded from somebody that's outside of your situation, and somebody that can just speak to you in a way that's really helpful to help you to see your worth. And that's something that I've really gotten out of my own sessions that I've had.
Yes, that's wonderful to hear. And sometimes we do need those reminders from someone who is removed from the situation. It's not our family, it's not our friends, not our work colleagues, and we can speak freely to them about everything that's going on and have them bounce back something more of a clearer reflection of what might be going on. And I think it's funny because as a psychologist who specializes in weight concerns, so most of the people that I see will want to lose weight. Most of the people at the clinic want to lose weight. But seemingly ironically, one of our key messages from the very start is that your health, your happiness, your success in life, your value as a person is not dependent on the number of the scales.
Yes.
You can't, the words I use are, you can't hate yourself healthy. That weight stigma that we experience, those negative feelings about ourselves, actually cause us more harm than they do help. So they're natural, they're normal, and we can see that, Damo, you feel like you're still living in a bit of a larger body, even though you've lost a lot of weight. Tash, you're, living in a fairly thin body and have lost a lot of weight. So you have two different body shapes here, but the body concerns are still something to navigate. And so that, thinness doesn't guarantee complete relief or resolution of body image concern.
That's right. That's exactly right. It didn't for me. And another issue, I believe a massive issue within the bariatric space is the skin that can come along with a weight loss type of a journey.
Yes.
And I think that the mental head fuck around that is just incredible. And it was for me, it was just, that part of it was absolutely debilitating. I'd lost all of this weight, but I had these swathes of skin, and I felt extremely disfigured by it. And it wasn't just me perceiving myself that way. I was actually asked in the street if I was a burns victim.
Wow.
So I know that that the way that I looked was confronting for others to see as well as for me to see. So that was very, very challenging. And I know that a lot of our listeners and a lot of people on BSA struggle in that particular space. So my journey around the whole self-worth thing really started to kick off then, because that was when I realized, you know what, this loathing that I thought was going to go away when I lost weight hasn't gone away. It's still there. And I kind of got an inkling that even if I went through all of the skin procedures in the world, it would still be there.
Yes.
Unless I started to work on myself and my relationship with myself and be kinder to myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm an absolute advocate for the importance of our mental health on this journey.
Yeah.
Because the need for psychology appointments definitely comes in waves, but dealing with the skin and then dealing with the life after the skin surgery, it's just an unfolding process.
And it's, as you're speaking, Tash, it's really reminding me of what I will often say to people is that we are taught that body image is in our body. If we're bigger, it's bad. If we're thinner, it's good. But body image, one way that there's a lot of ways to describe body image. My favorite way is to just talk about it, like you said, as your relationship with your body. And so like any relationship that you have, it's not just about looks. Relationships are about thoughts, about feelings. It's about what your body can do. It's about your body's physical health. And for me, most importantly, I believe that the key factor in body image is your mind. It's actually changing the relationship with your body. A lot of that happens between your ears.
I totally agree with you. Completely agree. When I started to really challenge my own, the loathing that I felt on the inside, I realized that unless I found a way through that and past that, it wouldn't matter how big, small, whatever. I was always just going to have that deep sense of ick about myself. And as I started to focus on other things than the look of my body, as I started to focus on the things that my body can do, that I can do now that I couldn't do before, on the health that I have now that I didn't have before, I started to build little building blocks of value, or that's the image that always comes to my mind. Every time I do something good for myself, I feel like I'm putting another little building block in place, and I'm building up a stronger, more resilient me as I do that. That's the process that goes on for me, and it's worked. It's absolutely been something that's changed my life.
That's wonderful to hear. And it's wonderful. I know that so many of your listeners will really be having their own little mental breakthroughs in understanding how they can feel more comfortable in their own skin. And hearing from you that it was a lot of work, but it offers a template of not only looking at my body by a very limited measure, what it looks like, but looking at it more holistically, more broadly, what it can do, how healthy it is, what I can do for it. And I think there was one key word that I think I just wanted to focus on there, Tash, that you used was focus. And I want to highlight that because what you are doing there is you're choosing, if you think of your attention as like a spotlight, you're choosing what you want to shine the spotlight on.
Yes.
And so the behaviors are really important. Those behaviors that are votes for you as someone of value, they're really important. But also the focus. So you have to, do things. You have to make changes. You have to improve yourself, but you also have to acknowledge those changes. And I think that's probably because before you had that, if we call it a body image crisis, there were so many behaviors that you must have done in service of yourself and in service of your journey to get there. but there wasn't maybe I might be reading too much into this, but there maybe wasn't the acknowledgement of all of that great stuff. And so it required, so it required the changes in the habits, but also the real change in the mindset, what you were focusing on.
Yeah, exactly. And that is exactly what happened. It was just one day I just decided that I cannot keep being angry with this body that has done so much, that has come so far, that has fought so hard to be where it is right now. And for me, it's been so transformative that I've stopped having plastic surgery. So I still have the entire back of my body worth of skin that I will probably never do anything about, because I am at peace with how I am. I'm good with it. And I never, if you'd asked me that even 2 years ago, I would have said, no, I will never be okay with how I look and how I am. But I am.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? And
I didn't think that it was ever going to be possible. But as I've practiced and been determined that I will love hard on myself, it's just become something that I can accept. I can accept me how I am, and I'm okay with me how I am.
What a wonderful reward for the massive journey you've been on.
Thank you. I think it has been as well.
Yeah.
Now, even when my plastic surgeon, and he's a wonderful, wonderful guy. He's like, we could just put in some we could just do this, we could just do that. I said, or we could just do none of it, because I'm okay with how I am.
Yeah. And I think an important point on that is that it required lots of work to get there to improve your body image.
Yeah.
But it also required a change in your focus.
Yep. 100%.
And it required you to actually dig a little bit deeper than weight as a goal.
Yes.
Often psychologists we have this term that we talk about in the research, which we call primary goals. So primary goals are basically the reasons why we want to lose weight, the reasons or the benefits that we expect from losing weight. And often that, we don't lose weight just to lose weight. No, we lose weight because we think it'll help us be at peace with our bodies. We lose weight because we think it will help us in our relationships. And we lose weight because we think it will help us in our careers, or we think it will help us be happier. And quite possibly, depending on our situation, it will help. But so often, it's not the only part of the picture. And so what a psychologist would say is, if you can identify your primary goals, well, I'm actually, the big thing for me is I actually want to feel at peace with my body. Or the big thing is for me, I want to feel stable in my mental health. Or the big thing is for me is I want to have a great career. And we would say, if part of that is through weight loss and a bariatric or a health journey, go for it. That's part of the journey. But we would also say, part of that conversation that's going on in our brain is probably due to that weight bias we have, where we think that weight is actually going to, it's contributing to more of the problem than it actually is. And when I get rid of it, I'm going to be more successful than I actually will. So we would say often, look at that goal. And if part of that is eating, exercise, weight, health related, take care of that part. But we would also say, don't forget to target that goal directly. Don't forget to go straight for that thing. Don't look at weight loss being the gatekeeper or the middleman around that. If you want to feel more comfortable in your own skin, or you want to have a better relationship with your partner, or you want to be more successful in business, or whatever it is, you've got to go for that directly as well.
Yeah. And something that I love that you just highlighted there, Glenn, is the fact that our surgeon will do a wonderful surgery. Our exercise physiologist will help us with our exercise, and our dietitian will help us with our eating. But our psychologist will see us as a person and help us progress forward with a healthy life. See us holistically as all of those different parts and help us navigate an actual journey forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It warms my heart for you to say that, because that's exactly what we try to do.
We see it and we believe in it.
Yeah, and isn't it great that I wish I had set more realistic expectations of myself when I had my surgery, because I made things so much more difficult than they needed to be.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because these expectations that we have, and psychologists often talk about the 4 false hopes of anyone starting a weight loss journey. And the false hopes that we have is we expect it's going to be faster than it actually will be.
Yeah.
We expect that the weight loss is going to be bigger than it actually will be. We expect it's going to be easier than it actually is. And we expect it's going to be, and I don't mean to sound pessimistic here, but we expect it to be more life-changing than it actually is. And so these false hopes, they're a real double-edged sword, because they do motivate us to action. And the diet industry sells us on those false hopes. So if you look at any diet marketing, it's like, it's telling you it's fast, it's telling you it's easy, it's telling you you're going to lose a lot of weight, and it's telling you it's going to change your life. So this is just our conditioning from living in a diet culture. And it does get us keen to start. But the problem with it is it can really set us up for sabotage, because then, well, it's not as fast as I expected. There must be something wrong with me, rather than actually being prepared for, well, this is a journey that takes quite a while. Oh my goodness, I haven't lost as much weight as that one success story I saw in the Facebook group. There must be something wrong with me. Whereas, well, no, if we follow most results are like a bell curve, you get some people who lose more, some people who lose less, you might be doing just as well. If we feel like it's going to be easy, that might get us to sign up. But then when it gets hard, we're not as empowered. So, and again, if we feel like it's going to be more life-changing than it actually is, then we get disappointed. Oh my goodness, I've lost all of this weight. Like you said, Dash, but I'm still not happy in my body.
Yeah.
But if we empower ourselves to have real hopes, and we can do this, thank goodness we don't just have to do this at the start of the journey, we can revise our goals and our hopes and our expectations at any stage, then what happens? Okay, well, I'm ready for a long journey.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm ready for the setbacks that are going to come as part of this process. I'm ready for, maybe to revise my expectations a little bit on what is my ideal weight. It might be a good weight for me, but just not what society tells me it should be. And also, I'm ready to acknowledge that this bariatric weight loss part of the journey with the surgeon and the dietitian and the exercise expert, that's part of the journey, but there might be other bits of the journey if I see myself as a whole person, and I'm ready to work on those as well.
Yeah. And that's where the journey's the most beautiful. It's the unfolding nature of it. It's the fact that we get to keep making those changes. And I don't know, I just find that part really, really exciting. We're never stuck. We're only as stuck as we make ourselves.
It's a beautiful way to think about it. And I think that empowers us, right? It's like we don't have to have this diet culture mentality of, I will do a 12-week program, or I will do this bariatric surgery journey, and then in 1 year that will be over. It's like, no, that's not the way life works.
I mean, life is going to happen to us. The years are going to pass.
Yep.
Regardless. So we might as well do them in the most empowered and best way possible.
Yeah, I absolutely love that.
Awesome.
There we go.
Thank you for joining us. This has been amazing, and we really appreciate it. And there's also a link for our listeners that I'll include in this video. Would you like to just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely I would. And we have just had I know that you guys put up the link in your wonderful community, and I'm proud to say we've got our fourth person booked in from that link today. So we had 3, we've got 4 today. And probably a tiny little background is that I spoke with Tash maybe a month or 2 ago, and then I was lucky enough to meet both of you, maybe a month or so ago. And I just think we really vibed, which I was hoping that we would, and I'm just so grateful that we have. I think that you guys were sort of looking for some people to support with the mindset aspect.
Yes.
And when you offered me a little sneak peek into your group, and an understanding of what's going on for your group, I thought these are absolutely people that we can help. These are our people. So your people are our people. And so we jumped on setting up a little inquiry form, and you can just fill it out. And then our team will help you. They'll call you and just help you figure out. There's no obligation or anything like that, but help you talk through what's going on for you and see if one of our psychologists can help, because we've got 7 psychs on the team. And we all specialize in eating, physical activity, weight, body image, and general psychology, of course, because we have to see ourselves as whole people. Sometimes people go, hey, can I talk to you about this stuff at work? And we're like, yeah, we have to be able to talk about that stuff because it's all related, like you said, Tash. But then, our psychs have different special interests. For example, we have Lynette is on our team, who is she does EMDR work, which is wonderful for trauma, and people really like her approach there. It's a bit deeper sometimes. And then we have another psychologist, Nelson, who is very interested in positive psychology and coaching. So he's a bit of a more upbeat person, kind of like me, and he will sort of, really give you homework. And some people really like that because they don't want to focus on the deeper stuff. Yeah. So they'll help you to find somebody who is right for you. Yeah. And then we've never done this before. And it's not on it's actually not on that inquiry form, but it absolutely is an offer that's open to anybody who listens to this podcast. We did have a few people, and we got together as an admin team, a client services team, and got the psychs together, and we told them how we'd had some great chats and we were going to be seeing more people from your community, because we always like to we'll always accept referrals, but what we really love is actually to get to know the people that we're working with collaboratively. So I wanted to let the psychs and our client services team know about you guys and your community. And then once we started getting a lot of inquiries, we're like, this is fantastic. It really shows that there is a huge synergy there, and we're a good missing bit of the puzzle for you guys, as you guys are for us. And we did get a couple of people say, look, I'd love that, but it's probably just a bit out of my price range. And so we talked as a team, and we have just for BSA members a 10% discount on your sessions. Yeah, with which, if you're eligible for a mental health care plan or you've got private health, it makes it a little bit more doable. We've had a couple of people take us up on that. So that's a nice thing we can do to help all of us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. That just says everything.
When Damo told me, I ugly cried. I'm just going to I ugly cried. I said, I'm so glad that I didn't find this out on the actual podcast, or I would have been ugly blubbering. So thank you. And please thank the team. We just so value and appreciate that we're able to collaborate together to offer people the help that they need.
We really appreciate it too, and we are absolutely looking forward to seeing you guys. So if you are thinking about that, some further steps with the psychology might help you, just give the girls a call. They're pumped to talk to you, and they can help you figure out what the right path might be for you.
Yep, that's so great. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right.